Welcome back to part 2 of Expanding Access and Choice. Now let's head to Mozambique to visit our next project. When Stacia Obremski joined the Maverick Collective as a founding member in 2015, only 12% of women in Mozambique were using a modern form of contraception. Significant structural and societal barriers kept women from accessing reproductive health products and services. Poor public health infrastructure, long distances to clinics, unreliable supply chains, and lack of privacy. And even when they did have access to contraceptives, it often came with stigma and misinformation, leading many women to stop or avoid using them. As a longtime advocate for reproductive health, Stacia knew she wanted to partner with PSI on a family planning project. As a venture capitalist, she was excited to invest in a high-risk idea that had the potential for failure, but the possibility of catalytic impact. At the same time, PSI Mozambique was looking for this kind of risk-forward and flexible investor. They were trying to introduce a new form of contraception into the Mozambican market, the self-injectable. The idea was to train community health workers to provide the injection for women in their homes and communities, to demonstrate to policymakers that lower-level professionals were capable of doing this, with the ultimate aim of women being able to do it for themselves. In this episode, you will hear Project Director Michaela Rodriguez, Project Coordinator Nicolau Nantumbo, and Stacia discuss the remarkable journey this project took to overcome hurdles and change course. They talk about failing fast, iterating, and trying again. And we get some very exciting news at the end that you do not want to miss. Let's tune in.
Hello, my name is Stacia Obremski. I'm one of the founding Maverick Collective members. I live in San Francisco, California, and I embarked on my Maverick journey with my daughter, Grace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Micaela Rodrigues, and my role in this project was to manage the project at the country level.
My name is Nicolau Nantumbo. During the course of the project, I was in charge of the coordination of all field activities, monitoring the work with the promoters and everyone else involved.
My sort of theory of change is that the two most important things you can do for the world are to educate women and then to give them the tools to manage their fertility. And then I knew when I joined the Maverick Collective that I would pick a project related to family planning because of my interest in the field.
This project took place in Mozambique. The project was implemented in Gaza, in Nampula, and in Zambezia. The project aims to serve all the women in a reproductive age in Mozambique and adolescent girls that live in the peri-urban and the rural areas of these provinces that were mentioned. Our biggest objective was to improve the access to modern contraceptive methods in the peri-urban and rural areas, and we wanted to do so by developing a community-based distribution approach that includes innovative projects such as the injectables called the MPAST, which means a version of injectables that are administered subcutaneously, which allows for a much easier administration.
What we did was basically train these health community workers to be able to inject cyanoprep and also teach women how to use correctly the pills contraceptive.
When we started the project, cyanoprep, the injectable that we are distributing, was just entering the market, so it was approved, but not for self-injection.
We started with the interim step of having community health workers do the injections, almost to demonstrate to the policyholders and the country that lower level health professionals were able to do this, in hopes that ultimately Sarah would be able to do it in Mozambique herself. One of my memorable experiences at being in the country was actually accompanying a community health worker on a home visit. In fact, the background behind me is the home of Sarah that we visited in one of the villages with the community health worker. And again, just to see Sarah's home and to be invited into Sarah's home and to be allowed to listen in a very obviously private conversation, again, was a real privilege and a real learning opportunity for my daughter and I.
So by the time that the project started, we had about 12% of women of reproductive age that were currently using a method of modern contraception. It was even a lower number when we looked at rural areas. So in the rural areas, the average was about 7%, so below 10% of women that were actually using. The local health facilities are overwhelmed with people. They don't have the resources to serve with quality the women that need to have access to family planning. The health facilities have no privacy. They are far away usually from the places where these women live, so people would take a long time to get there. And also we could see that there was lack of information about family planning. So access to information, to the available methods, was not being done efficiently.
Ultimately, the project sort of reconfigured itself a little bit, and because of the difficulty of the community health workers getting out to Sarah, and Sarah being so dispersed, and also some issues of privacy, because sometimes it wasn't a good idea for Sarah to invite the community health worker into her home for whatever reason, that the model was switched, right? And I remember that was one of the big sort of insights and innovations, was rather than the community health workers going out to Sarah's home in a lot of dispersed areas, was for the community health worker to have sort of a kiosk in her home, and then have Sarah come to the community health worker when it was sort of convenient and more discreet for Sarah. So again, I think that was one of the big learnings of the project, is we sort of had to fine tune and almost flip the model in order to make it successful and more convenient for Sarah.
Yeah, that was actually the last approach we tried in what we call Manjaka's model. We created those kiosks, and that was 99% successful, because almost every woman did not deny having a pack of pills or her next injection being given by the promoter or the community health worker. So then that way we could overcome the trust issue.
So for me, what stands out the most in the project is the insights that we gathered from Sarah whenever we talked to them on the call center surveys that we did, is that this service, the fact that they were able to receive the service at their doorstep or at the promoter's house, so but very close to home, was something that they valued a lot. It was something very important for Sarah. It was definitely fail fast and learn and adapt fast, and it indeed allowed us to try a lot of different approaches. In the end, as Nicolau mentioned, we were actually able to have a lot of valuable learnings and see a lot of ways that the project was actually starting to go. We were seeing the light, so we were seeing, okay, this is the way we must do it, and it was really, really nice.
And I remember when we originally were discussing this project, I really wanted to see the injectable go right to the woman for self-injection. And I remember the country team saying, we have to lay the groundwork first. This is a new method coming into the country. We have to socialize this idea. We have to get buy-in from the Ministry of Public Health. We have to demonstrate that, a community health worker who is trained can do this, on the way to actually allowing Sarah to do this herself. And lo and behold, 5 years later, Michaela, you gave me some exciting news this morning that self-injection is finally approved for cyanopress in Mozambique. They finally approved the product to be self-injected by women. So that's huge. That's really, really big. This means that the product will be able to be sold at pharmacies. So we don't need anymore for the product to be only accessed by a health provider, and that women themselves can go to a pharmacy, buy the product, and inject at home whenever they need it. So the access improves largely, and the ability to take this method for women, it's also improved. So it's a big step for the contraceptive methods available in Mozambique. So because I have an interest in family planning, both in the US and globally, it was just a really great opportunity for me, again, to have access to some of these experts and to ask some of these questions. And I'm still trying to bring a 3-month injectable for self-injection to the US. It's quite a complicated problem, but I'm on a mission to give women the same access in the US that they have globally, because I think removing all those barriers makes it much easier for them to access the care they need.
What a powerful story and incredible ending. After 5 years of trial and adaptation, learning and advocacy, self-injectable contraception will be available in Mozambique in pharmacies for women to purchase on their own and safely inject at home. This is transformational for women across low and middle income countries, and we are so proud that PSI and Maverick Collective could play a significant role. So now you might be asking, why don't we have self-injectable contraception in high-income countries like the United States? Well, Stacia is on a mission to find out and change that. It's just one of her life goals, alongside introducing new contraceptive technologies into the US market, particularly for women of color, so that we don't have to continue using, in her words, our grandmother's contraception. Thank you so much, Michaela, Nicolau, and Stacia, for your time, flexibility, learning mindset, and most importantly, your determination to see this project through and transform the lives of so many women across Mozambique. Reflecting on these two amazing projects brings me back to those powerful words that are necessary for achieving our ambitious goal of universal health coverage: voice, choice, and agency. As we learned in episode 1 of Maverick Beat, centering girls and women in the design and delivery of programs, ensuring they have a voice in if and how they want to be engaged, is critically important. Equally important is ensuring they have choice. Choice in if, when, and how to use family planning. And choice between high-quality products, because we all know that a product that works well for our best friend might not work for us. Both of these projects expanded choice. They brought new products into communities, they brought new types of healthcare workers into the workforce, and they took on the risk of testing new products and various forms of distribution until they got it right. And then they did the thankless and relentless work of advocating hard with policymakers and influencers to prove the viability of community-based and self-care delivery models so that more women have the agency to access family planning where and how they want. Thank you so much for tuning in to this second episode of Maverick Beat. It is an honor to host you on this virtual journey and to witness the impact that Maverick Collective and PSI are having on women and girls, you, and philanthropy. See you soon.